What are you feeding your mind right now? If it's social media, are you tired of doom scrolling through the angry comment sections and political rants yet? What if you use that time to actually fix your marriage? Welcome to the free Married and Connected School community. It's like social media, but without the ads, without the judgment, and without the noise. Just real self-paced tools that get you out of that roommate phase starting today. Inside, you get an exact blueprint for a weekly State of the Union meeting with your spouse. We're cutting mental load, we're stopping miscommunications, and we're breaking that exhausting loop of doom argument once and for all. Plus, you get instant access to workshops on overcoming resentment and bringing the actual fun back into your marriage. We have a dedicated space just for guys jumping into Forging Fortitude. It's a 10-week intensive to help you step into your masculine leadership and become the husband and man that God called you to be. And for ladies joining Edifying Eden, we're stepping out of that controlling, nagging era into our soft, nurturing, feminine era, even if your husband hasn't taken the reins yet. Either way, you can take responsibility for your side of the street. Stop scrolling the internet and start investing in your home. The community is 100% free with options to purchase certain courses. Click the link in the show notes and join the Married and Connected School community today. I'll see you inside. Marriage isn't supposed to feel like roommates, but it doesn't have to feel like a war either. Hi, I'm Kameran and certified marriage coach and a relationship expert. Every week on Married and Connected, I bring you real talk, hard truths, and practical tools you can start using right away. Whether you've been married 2 years or 42, this is where you'll find hope, encouragement, and steps that actually work. So let's make your marriage feel good again, starting right now. Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of the Married and Connected podcast. I'm your host, Kameran and Today, I have a guest that I'm so excited to introduce here in a minute. But first, disclaimer, as I have given this disclaimer so many other times in podcast episodes, this episode is definitely not going to be for little ears. So if you are in the car and you have children who even maybe might be listening, you might want to shut this off and listen to it later or in your AirPods. Otherwise, it is my deepest pleasure. I'm so excited to jump into this conversation with Keri Green. She is a licensed marriage and family therapist. She is also a licensed sex therapist, and we are going to get into all the questions today. So welcome, Keri. I'm so excited to have you.
Yes, thank you. Happy to be here.
So we're just going to jump right in. We both are very pro-marriage, very, we want people's relationships to work out. And we also understand that sometimes they just don't.
Yeah.
So for that, one of the most common questions that I specifically see is staying for the kids. Is that just a slow motion trauma bond for everybody? Do you see that actually works? What are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I literally 10 minutes before our podcast just started, finished a couple session, a couple I've been seeing for about a year. And unfortunately, a lot of change is not happening and they're stuck in the same, patterns. And they have 2 kids that are, young teens and have said, maybe we just need to stay, for the kids. And I am not here as a divorced person. I am not here as a therapist to ever tell a couple what to do. They've got to do what they feel is best for themselves, their relationship, and their family. I will not support a couple staying together if there's abuse going on. That's a whole other conversation. Yet what I am seeing, and I said this to them literally 30 minutes ago, I am seeing more couples, both professionally as a therapist and within friends and people, in my community, but I'm sure it's all communities, staying together more now than they ever did before for their children until their children are older, because either it's a financial stress, especially being in Southern California where I am, but a lot of people also think and believe it'll be better on the children. We'll wait till they're older. They'll be able to handle it better. We'll wait till at least one of them is away to college. Then we only have to have 1 or 2 kids left to have to go doing the, back and forth. I don't believe any of that. I believe that the time is the time. There's never a good time. And we deserve to be happy as adults, and we deserve to have our children seeing what a healthy relationship looks like. And again, that is different for every single couple. So I actually do a lot of therapy. Yes, I'm a sex therapist, but I do a lot of therapy where couples are coming to speak to me about This is our specific situation.
Mhm.
What do you think? And if we do choose to stay together, how do we make it work so we can both be happier? And if we are going to need to tell our kids this relationship has run its course, what is the best way, to make that happen?
Yeah. Yeah. And I completely agree. I think the biggest thing that you said there that I absolutely agree with is teaching your kids how to have a healthy relationship. And if this isn't a healthy relationship and you're not willing to learn how to make it a healthy relationship with this person, then that it's just not going to work. But I think that that willingness, if both people, I am all day, every day, a hill that I will die on. If both people are willing to make it work and willing to learn, then it will work, you know?
Sure. Sure.
So
And every example of a marriage is different. Every example of love is different, of
yeah,
affection is different. But again, I will die on the same hill. You said it specifically and perfectly. Both people need to want to make the efforts to make the marriage better for both of them. I always say it takes two people to start a relationship, it only takes one to end it. Because
absolutely.
unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you want to look at it, I have seen in session one person say, I'm done, and the other person is devastated. They're not. But if one is done, you can't be in a marriage with just one person. It's got to take two.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Okay, so next question.
Yes.
Why do you because I don't typically run across a lot of divorced therapists or divorced coaches, and we see a lot of like, "Oh, yes, I'm a coach, but I've never had," "Yeah, we've had really big fights, but, like, we've never been through anything." And I was excited to run across you because for me, I think that gives me a leg up to where I can speak to both sides of the coin.
Sure, sure.
Of, like, "Listen, I'm not gonna Willy Wonka this for you. This is what divorce is gonna be like, and this is
Yep,
what marriage is
yep.
like, and changing a marriage." Yeah. So, for you, do you find that that is also a pro for you, that you can speak to both sides of the point, and why? Why is a divorce therapist
Yeah,
more equipped to save a marriage than one who's been married for 30 years?
yeah, and again, it's we don't know what we don't know. I don't know how I would be as a licensed marriage and family therapist, sex therapist, if I wasn't a divorced woman, single mother, because that is who I am. I do believe it adds experience, and experience is value. I am not sitting here saying someone else who does the exact same thing that I do, but has been in a 20+ year marriage happy is better than me or worse than me. They just have a different experience.
Yeah.
Good, bad, or indifferent, I bring to my life. And as a therapist, being a child of divorce, going through my own divorce, being in a marriage that at one time was loving and amazing and wonderful and healthy, also being in a marriage for more years than not that was not healthy, was not happy. And I know what it's like to end a marriage with two young children. I know what it's like to be single and dating on the apps in my 40s. I also know what it feels like right now to be in a very healthy dating relationship. So I kind of come from all the different angles that I think is helpful as a therapist. But I will say to my married couples in the front of me, even though I am divorced, I am here to help the two of you work on your marriage if that is in fact what you want. I also, though, can speak to what the other side looks like because I live it and breathe it every day.
Every day. Yeah. Okay, I wanna get into the juicy stuff here.
Let's go.
Uh, One of the things that, again, that I hear a lot is, sex sabbaticals. Like, women
Yeah.
obviously not healthy, but women, withholding sex because they're mad at their husband, or, they've told them 1,000 times to do whatever, whatever. Can a marriage actually survive a sex sabbatical, or at that point, are we just roommates with a joint bank account?
My initial answer is yes. I have seen marriages survive very difficult things. I've also seen marriages not survive what would be my opinion of something that could have potentially been talked about and worked through. So I've seen both sides. The question is, what is the reason of this sex
Yeah.
sabbatical? What is the reason that one partner is using it as a punishment on the other? not to compare apples to apples, but I know I did this as a parent. I'm sure most have. It's like when we're upset with our child and we take away their iPad. We don't let
Yep.
them go to the sleepover on Saturday night. I'm
Yep.
sorry, who's that hurting more? That's hurting
Yeah.
us. Now we
Yeah.
don't get to go out with our friends on Saturday night because our kid's not getting to go to the sleepover. Now my kid's going to be, whining for the next hour because I took their iPad away. I am not saying don't discipline your kids with taking devices away, not let them go to the sleepover, but we've got to think about how our punishment to our loved one is also sometimes a punishment to ourselves. And if we are equating sex with a punishment, I'm going to hold this over your head. I'm not going to do this thing with you. There's more to it than I'm mad at you. There's also, I'm not wanting to have sex, or maybe I'm wanting to have sex. I'm just not wanting to have sex with you. So when that comes up in couples therapy, which it does all the time, I always want to know the why. I want to go one layer deeper and find out. I get why you're upset with your husband. I get why you're disappointed in your wife. How come it's sex that's being taken away? Are there other
Mhm.
things? And then we, go down that road.
I think it's a lot of times, and maybe I should just ask this, is a lot of the reason just because that's the easiest thing. That's the easiest consequence that they can come up
Yeah.
with.
It's the easy consequence, and chances are it's already not where they want it to be. So it's like,
Mhm.
well, it's already been 2 weeks that we haven't had sex. It's already been 3 months that we haven't, touched each other. That's an easy thing to say. Well, you just earned another month of no touching. Well, Friday night when we have to go out with the neighbors down the street because you scheduled the double date and I don't want to go, don't expect that you're getting, late at the end of the night. I'm mad at you.
Yeah.
How about I'm mad at you because I'm disappointed because, and I miss attention. I miss
Mhm.
affection. I'm
Mhm.
sad that we haven't even kissed in a week. We haven't even hugged in a day, 2 days. So there's a difference between couples who haven't had sexual intimacy, which is a big part of what couples come and see me for, but also a lot haven't even had any form of physical touch in
Mhm.
days, weeks, months, and they sleep together in the same bed. They're raising children together, yet they're not hugging, they're not kissing, they're not even sitting next to each other on the couch. They're basically roommates. Heck, even roommates would sit next to each other on the couch, So they're
Sure.
they're even just like roommates at that point. They're so far apart that it's just going to be so much harder, not impossible, but so much harder to come together.
I don't think people realize how important that non-sexual touch is. The
Yeah,
hugging, the kissing, the even like, brushing the small of their back or their neck or whatever when you're walking by them. Like that's so
absolutely.
important for connection. So important for
Absolutely.
connection. How often do you see it become, or the cause of that rather, is because of attraction? Like I love them, but I'm not attracted to them anymore.
I would say, in my experience as a therapist, it is less. I am no longer attracted physically to my partner. It's I am no longer attracted emotionally and mentally to them because of what we've been through. That I may also not find them physically attractive. Their looks haven't changed, or yes, maybe their looks have changed. The longer we've been in a relationship, the more our looks are going to change, whether that's
We get older.
hair, skin, weight, but it's less. I still do find my husband and my wife attractive. I just want nothing to do with them because of the way they speak to me, because of the promises they've made that they're not following through on, because of X, Y, or Z. When someone gets to the point of no longer finding their partner physically attractive, they're no longer turned on by their partner. Again, not impossible, but that's going to be a lot harder to find again. That's going to be a lot harder to try and come back to. Again, not impossible, but just more difficult in
What
my
if
experience.
what if what would you tell a couple if they are physically attracted, but it's a mental or an emotional attraction thing?
Start with where they're at. What is it? Where is the disconnect mentally and emotionally? When did it start? What role do you have in this? Yes, your partner may be working long hours at work and not coming home when you believe they could, but what is the home environment like that maybe they're not wanting to come home to? We are very, very quick to blame our partner And sometimes it is a 90-10. Sometimes that is the case,
Sure.
but a lot of times it's not.
It's not. Yeah.
Again, just in the session I had right before this, so it's top of mind, him saying, I don't want to go to you and talk to you about the things that you want me to go to you and talk to you about. You're asking for more emotional connection, but when I make the time to come talk to you, you have an attitude. You don't want to
Mhm.
hear what I have to say. You blame me for the thing I didn't do. And again, both things can be true at the same time.
Sure.
But if we are asking for something of our partner, we also need to take a look within and see how are we showing up to our partner.
I interviewed someone yesterday that we were talking that she said that about 85% of the time when people come to her, they are interested in doing the work, but they're not actually like they're not at that decision point yet where they're willing to do the work and they're actually
Sure,
willing to face
sure.
themselves. And I think I find that too in my own practice is, I have couples that come to me and unfortunately, I think they come to me because they want me to say, "Oh, you know what? You are so perfect. You did everything right. Now, husband or wife, you suck.
Yeah,
And you
yeah,
need to fix your entire life because
yeah,
you are just going about this all wrong." And they're shocked when that's not how that happens, even though in the initial phone conversation that we have, I tell them that like, okay, this is a two-way street. This is not,
yeah,
just
yeah,
one person. And so, yeah. Do you find that too? That people come to you and they're like,
yeah, yeah.
This is
And
all."
I absolutely, and I want to validate where each person is coming from, but I'm also a pretty real therapist. And I will say, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, doesn't matter. I can see why what you did was upsetting to them. Or
Yeah.
I'll even be like, that would upset me too.
Yeah.
I don't have the 5 stages of change written down in front of me, but as you were talking about the 85% want to change, but it's hard to follow through. That's the whole pre-contemplation, contemplation, you know. Think about I always say it's a 3-step process. We have to first be aware of what we want to change, whether that
Yeah.
is more affectionate with my partner, lose weight, not yell at my kids. Whatever the thing is, we have to be aware of it first. Step 1. Step 2, we need to know how we are going to go about changing it. If I want
Mhm.
to lose weight, I need to exercise. I need to stop eating McDonald's. Whatever the thing is, we have to have the
Yeah.
actionable steps.
Yep.
So we need to know what we want to change. We need to start making the change. Third step, hardest step, it's got to be consistent. How many times do you hear things are going better? They went better. The 2-3 week is a pretty good indication, and then it drops off. Look at the
Yep.
gyms on January 2nd.
Yeah.
You can't find a parking spot. By January 15th, 50% of those parking spots are open because those people who wanted to work out, wanted to lose weight, New Year's resolution, they went back to their old ways. And I'm not
Yep.
criticizing them. I'm not blaming
Just
them.
is what it is. Yeah.
It is what it is. And those ones that show up at the gym at 6 a.m. every day, doesn't matter if it's January 1st or, May 10th, they're showing up. So people come to therapy because they're not happy with where they're at in their life in any way, shape, or form. They want to change. The want is there. But the follow through and consistency a lot of the times is not. I have found as a sex therapist, prior being more of a relational therapist, child therapist, did a lot of things before honing in on sex specifically. More people I'm seeing are wanting to make the changes when it comes to their sex life
Yeah.
because I'm finding for a couple or an individual to reach out specifically to a sex therapist, they want to better understand their sexual trauma. They want to work through their dysfunction. They want to discuss ways to open their marriage. They want to talk about possibly ending the marriage because their sex life is not where they, wanted it to be. Maybe it was never where they wanted it to be. So I see as a sex therapist more willingness to change and more actionable outcomes of changing. But still, people are people. We're going to say we want something and then we're not going to necessarily, you know, do anything about
Do. Yeah.
it. Yeah, the
Yep.
do.
Yeah. The do part. Yep. That do part, man. That'll kick
It's
you in the
hard.
face every time.
It's tough.
It's hard. It is hard. As you were talking about people wanting to improve their sex life and things like that. What are some of the common things that you see that people are wanting to improve within their sex life if they're in a monogamous heterosexual relationship?
So the two common things are probably what people would think would be the two common things. It's either the amount of sex they're having
Okay.
and or the type of sex they're having. So it's
Okay.
either I want to have sex more often. We're having sex once a month. I would like to have sex once a week. Or it's I'm actually very content with the amount of sex we're having, whether it's once a week, once a month, whatever. I just want more variety. Spice is a word that's used a lot. Novelty is used a lot to the sex we're having. And all of those are great things to want. Nothing wrong with any of those things. How does your partner feel?
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
one person is fine with your sex life, whether that's the amount or the quality, but the other person is not, where do we go from there? And again, there's a big difference if one is here and one is here. We've got to slowly make our way, and we'll maybe never be here, but at least if we start to inch towards the other, a difference of this is much different. You can't even see my hands because they're so far
Yeah.
apart.
Sure. Yeah.
So
So
that's just like
what do
anything.
you do in those situations? Like, how do you help a couple? What kind of tools can you give them to, if they do have those mismatched drives that are just wildly apart? One thinks that it's okay to do once a month, one thinks it's okay to, that they are wanting it 3 times a week. How do you help them to grow together?
So it's kind of two part. It's asking, was the relationship ever where they both wanted it to be? And let's
Mhm.
talk about that. Because usually it's in the beginning, it was hot and heavy. And then as time
Yep,
goes
yep,
on,
yep.
and sometimes it was never where one person wanted it to be. So that's one of the questions. Has it ever been good, somewhat aligned for both of you? And we talk about that. And I'm a very realistic, I call myself an optimistic realist, both personally and
Okay.
professionally. That's how
Okay.
I carry myself.
I like
So
it.
is it realistic? Is it ever even going to be a possibility to have sex 3 times a week if that's what your partner's asking for, where you're okay with 3 times a year? That's a pretty
Yeah.
big difference.
Yeah.
So if the end goal is not even a realistic end goal, I need to know that. If the end goal is, well, I don't know if it's going to be 3 times a week, but I'm willing to try towards once a week from once a month, and the
Yeah.
once a month person is good with that, that's at least better than what it is, then let's start there. And also, how do we define sex? That's a huge question that comes up in
Mhm.
every single session. Every single session, meaning every single person or couple I work with, not
Yeah.
necessarily every session I have with them. One may say, I want sex 3 times a week. They may very well be referring to intercourse. They may just be referring to cuddling in bed and 5 minutes of oral with no orgasm. That would be their definition of sex. And that absolutely is sex.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the other person's thinking, oh my God, I can't imagine 3 times a week at 10 o'clock at night having sex for an hour. I have to shave. I have to this. I have to that. No way could we have sex 3 times a week. Well, how are you even defining sex?
Yeah.
And then maybe it is more realistic if it's not this big to do with all of these things and it's a much smaller version of what we're imagining it to be.
That makes a lot of sense. So for a couple that has, like, well, two different options here. The first option being like, let's say, average couple, super happy in their marriage, but, they've got the mortgage and the cars and the jobs and the kids and the dog and all the things. How do we even make sex possible 3 times a week?
Well, how do we make going to the gym possible 3 times a week? How do we make cooking a home cooked meal possible 3 times a week? How do we make scrolling TikTok for an hour possible 3 times a week? It is our priority. It is our choice. It has to be of enough value and importance to us that we can make it work. I worked with a couple years ago who had 6 kids, probably because of all the sex they were having. They committed, and I have to believe people tell me what they tell me. I have no reason to not believe
Yeah,
it.
sure.
They committed when they met and they started their sexual relationship that they would have sex every day. And if they didn't have sex every day, it was only because one person was sick, one was out of town. So, do I mean every day, 365 days a year for their 15-year marriage at that point? No. But the hope and effort and willingness and wantingness, unless there was an extenuating circumstance, they would make that time for each other. And again, what was their version of sex? I don't know. Was it taking a shower together and touching each other? Maybe. Was it
Yeah.
full on intercourse in 10 different positions with 20 different toys? Maybe. But that was important enough to them that they made the commitment and they saw it through.
Yeah.
So is it possible? Yes. It's a choice that people make to not do that. And that's okay. Again, I'm not here as a sex therapist to say, you've been together 20 years, you have to have sex blank amount of times.
Yeah.
I'm here to support whatever the couple or individual wants their sexual life to look like.
I don't think people are having this conversation enough, though. In my experience with working with couples, this is, in 6 different types of conversations that you're having, you've got logistics and teamwork and,
Totally.
emotional bids and all of it. But then you get to intimate expression. And so it's like one of them, maybe, maybe they grew up with sexual trauma. Maybe they grew up in a home where, they were just taught you don't speak of sex.
Absolutely.
Now they're
Absolutely.
by it, and so they just don't talk about it, and now it's like, "Well, I don't know what she likes. Well, I don't know what I like. I don't know what I want. I don't know what she wants," And it's this weird conversation. So, as we're talking about, like, mismatched drives and things like that, one of the other reasons that I come across quite a bit is, let's say and it's usually the manager, I hate to throw men under the bus here, but usually the women feel like they're, like, the manager of the household. I'm doing all the things. My husband says, "I'm ready for bed." He goes to bed. I say, "I'm ready for bed," and I have a list of 100 things that I have to do before I'm actually
Yeah.
ready to crawl into bed. So, how do we transition from manager to lover in, like, a 10-minute time span?
Well, it's not easy. And it starts with I talk about roles and responsibilities, roles and expectations in couples work all the time. You are both responsible, doesn't mean equally, for all the things to communicate with each other, to initiate sex with each other, to parent your children, to go to the grocery store, to mow the lawn. And you have a conversation about the roles and responsibilities, and it works for you until it doesn't. And 9 times out of 10, most couples, each partner is always going to feel they're doing more. Well, most likely one of you is doing more, therefore the other one of you is doing less. And it can be a simple conversation. Hey, I would love to show up in our bedroom tonight at 9 o'clock. The best way I can to be intimate together, whatever we define as intimacy. And the best way that will happen for me is if X, Y, and Z. Doesn't mean it's a threat. Doesn't mean it's if you don't do these things, but it's this is going to be helpful for me. I will feel the most relaxed. I will not feel distracted. I will not be able to make it into the bedroom at 9 o'clock if these other things aren't done.
Yeah.
But then I will also argue leave the dishes in the sink dirty if that's what you need to do. Forego
Agreed.
your child having a bath that night. It's going to be okay. Like if you
Gonna
don't have
be
to check your
okay.
email one more time, check it in the morning. How much are we making excuses of these things that we have to check before we
Yeah.
relax, before we offer ourselves self care, let alone our partner's intimacy? And if it is, well, I cannot be in the moment of sex if I know there's dirty dishes in the sink. Okay. Then we've got to make sure those dirty dishes in the sink are cleaned and who's going to do it and what's that going to look like. Heck, wash the dishes together. That
Yeah.
can be foreplay. Why not?
It can
Foreplay is anything you want it to be. I love this saying, Emily Morse, Dr. Emily Morse, I love her, sexwithemily.com, says foreplay begins the minute we wake up. Foreplay is anything we do throughout the day to show our partner we love them, we appreciate them, we're attracted to them, we're desirable of them, to them. So if it's decided that the dishes need to be cleaned, do it together. Why not? Talk about the great sex you're about to have in 20 minutes as you're scrubbing the dishes from that dinner and putting it in the dishwasher.
I love that. Yeah.
Have fun.
No.
Why not?
Foreplay
Yeah,
is the
that
moment
comes a
you
lot.
wake up. I love that. That's absolutely true. And I think that because we're putting it into separate boxes, I think that's why it's not getting done, and also why it's not being done well or being done as much as it should be. That's
Well,
yeah.
and when we feel like we are carrying the load, male or female, resentment is going to build up. How could it not?
Yeah.
There he goes again, going on the couch and watching TV, and I'm left to do all these things for the kids. Got to sign their permission slip, got to wash out the water bottles. Oh, there she goes again, scrolling social media and watching those stupid reels. Meanwhile, I am the one putting the kids to bed or paying the bills.
Yep.
It's very easy to get into that, pattern versus, hey, it would be so nice if you could help me with this. Or I'm not trying to upset you. I'm sorry if this upsets you. I'm feeling like things are not really shared right now. What do you think? And then having a conversation about it. Back to what you were saying about not even knowing necessarily what our partners want sexually. Sometimes we don't even know ourselves what we want.
Yeah.
I've been working with a couple close to 5 years now. They are 30 plus years married, and they're discovering for the first time what their partner is like. Sometimes it's even coming up in therapy. Like, well, it would be nice if next time you did this thing or said this thing. And the partner's like, really? And here I am, not judging, but here I'm thinking, you guys have been together for 30 years. And
How do you
yes,
not
I
know
love
this?
that you're having this conversation at all, but you're having this conversation for the first time in a therapy session with me. Like, this
Yeah.
hasn't come up at all in 30 years. Wow.
Yeah. Wild. Absolutely wild.
Yeah. Because people don't talk about sex. And if they are talking about sex, they're not talking about sex with the person they're having sex with. They're talking about it with their therapist. They're talking about it with their hairdresser. They're talking about it when they're out at, happy hour with their
Yeah.
girlfriends. But they're not saying it to the person who they are going to bed with, what their wants and needs are.
Okay, so dig into that then. How do we make these conversations happen when you've got one person who is very freely vocal about sex and one person in the marriage that is just absolutely closed off to it? How do we start having these conversations? Because I think I'm thinking about one couple that I'm working with specifically that's exactly what's happening, and she goes to him to talk to him about sex, and he just kind of clams up, and it's kind of a mental block that he just he doesn't know what to say. He doesn't feel comfortable. He
Sure.
is working on it, and he's doing a great job staying in those conversations, but it is one of those things that it is clearly not he would rather be doing literally
Anything else? Getting a
yeah,
root canal. Sure.
absolutely.
So, one of the best things I learned back in my undergrad social work days was start with where the client is at. You've got to start in your relationship, whether that relationship is with an intimate partner, that relationship is with a colleague, that relationship is with your child. You've got to start with where they are at. Because if we are going to try, especially when it comes to sex, if we are going to try and rush something, pressure something, make someone feel bad about something, it's not going to help. You're going to take
Yeah.
100 steps back, not one step forward. So I always identify, which is pretty easy to do from the beginning, which partner is less comfortable. That's
Oh,
not
sure.
bad. That's not good. It's just what it is.
Mhm.
And we've got to start with where they're at. And if they are someone, which it sounds like the husband is, who wants to be more comfortable, who wants to learn more, who wants to be able to get further along in their sexual relationship, that's great. Versus the one who doesn't, that's another conversation. Where can we little itty bitty step outside of our comfort zone? We're not jumping in the deep end, but we're also not just gently putting our toe in the water. We're stepping onto the first step of the pool and we're staying there for a while. That's fine. Let's stay there a while. Let's feel the water. Let's see that it's not as bad as we think it is. Then through time, whether time is one conversation or time is 6 months, I don't know, we step onto the next step in the pool and we get a little bit more cold water on our body. And at first, it's going to be a little shocking. But
Yeah.
then once we sit in it a little bit longer, we're good.
Yeah.
So slow and steady wins the race. That is what I say all the time. And also what I say all the time, I say a lot of things all the time. The other thing I say is comfort first, pleasure second. We cannot find pleasure to the point where we want to, where we deserve to in a sexual experience unless we're comfortable. And I define comfortable as emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, however you want to define it. And then as far as, well, how do those couples have those conversations? There's so many books out there. There's so many podcasts out there. But it's just starting with a slow, small conversation
Yeah.
and going from there.
Mm.
I like to ask couples, what has been your favorite sexual experience to date with your partner? Make
Mhm.
sure you add the with your partner part because I
Yeah.
made the
Yeah.
of
We
asking
know
this years
there's
ago.
some jealousy going on.
I made the mistake of asking this question years ago to a couple, and his response was, "You mean with my wife, right?" And I'm like, "Oh gosh, yes, I mean with your wife." But also, in his defense, If his favorite sexual experience maybe hadn't been with his wife and it was with someone else, that might be hard for her to hear.
Yeah,
But depending on the couple and where they're at, it might be valuable information because he did get to do this thing with this other person that he wants to maybe do with his wife. And that would be a great conversation to have. But once we let the cat out of the bag and share how we feel about something, ask for something sexually, we can't take it back.
yeah,
There's
that's true.
also where do we go when we want to ask for something sexually that we're not sure how our partner's going to feel? And again, there's lots of different worksheets and conversations and books and things that people can use as a resource to help them with that I
For
refer
sure.
to.
One of the things that you said earlier is comfort and pleasure. I think that a lot of times couples get into this and we get into, again, that autopilot where we're in the experience just to have the experience, and an orgasm is the goal every single time. How how much does pleasure actually play a part in this? And how do we start reaching for more of pleasure as the goal versus orgasm as the goal?
Yeah. I mean, that's just it. Most people define sex as intercourse, penis and vagina intercourse, let alone. So that rules out a lot of, possibilities. And they define successful sex as an orgasm for both people. And hey, as long as both people are having an orgasm, let's also throw in that both people are going to have the orgasm at the same time. Because why not? Not reality for many,
Yeah.
many, many couples. Yet that's what we watch. We watch the show on TV where it's hot and heavy, and then they both have this mind blowing orgasm, and it's not reality. She's not getting up to pee. He's not losing his erection. Her
Yep.
makeup's not smearing. Like it's not
Yeah.
reality.
Yeah.
So, again, back to definition, what would make a successful, enjoyable, pleasurable experience? Maybe it's just to be told that I feel safe with you. I'm so attracted to you. Thank you for loving me. Maybe it's a massage. Maybe it is penis and vagina sex. But where is the person defining and measuring, a successful sexual experience? And I encourage couples to go into an experience and name what they're looking for. Sure. Would most people ideally like to have an orgasm? I've never heard someone tell me they don't want to have one. So my guess is most people would love that to happen if that could be the cherry on top, the icing on the cake. But if it doesn't happen, or if it happens for one of you and it doesn't happen for the other one, will it still be an enjoyable, pleasurable experience? And my hope is people can say, yes, it would be. But we are so fixated on either having our own or making sure our partner has one that we have sex much longer than we want to. We fake it. We do positions we're not comfortable with. We agree to things, not again, an assault by any means, but we agree to things that we're not really agreeing to. And to me, that's not enjoyable, pleasurable, honest sex.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I'm
starting with
glad
those
that you put honest in
conversations.
there because I think, what we don't realize is that sex is so vulnerable. And that is one of those, I mean, that along with sleeping, that is one of the most vulnerable positions that you can be in, literally, pun intended.
Yeah,
But for that, I don't think people realize that the best sex that you can possibly have is with someone where you have so much trust and emotional intimacy and knowing and not just honesty but transparency as well. I mean, when you have that,
absolutely.
yeah, it's easy to go out and find someone to have sex with every single night even. But when you're at home and you have there's that history that you have between the
Yeah.
two of you, when that's built.
There's the feeling of safety. There's the feeling of safety. And I always say in a two-person relationship, there's three relationships. There's the relationship I have with myself sexually, there's the relationship my partner has with themselves sexually, and there's the relationship we have together. I am not sitting here saying that for the individual who masturbates every day, who has tried every toy there is in the world, is going to show up as, an amazing partner, but it doesn't hurt. The more we are comfortable with our own bodies, the ways that we know what we like and don't like, we are going to show up more comfortable, more experienced, more open. And we've got to be vulnerable, but we've got to be honest. And to me, The best sex is where you are so focused on your body and your partner's body, and you're bringing in all the five senses. You're smelling the shampoo in their hair. You're touching, their knee. You are hearing their breathing. You're just so in it. You're not thinking about anything else, and you're almost watching it while being in it and just letting your bodies take over. To me, that is the most intimate, amazing, wonderful sex where you're not thinking, did I shave? Can he feel the extra fat on my stomach? Did she notice that I just got a little bit soft and, I'm not thrusting as hard. I'm not, like we're gonna think those things because we're human and that's all part
Yeah.
of sex. But if we can just be in it, and it's okay if you lose your erection. It's okay if you didn't shave. It's okay if you thought you were going to use the vibrator that night and oops, and I forgot to charge it. Laugh about it. Like,
Yeah.
sex is so many things, but people are so worried that they're going to disappoint their partner when most people just want to share an experience.
Yeah. That's one thing I read not too long ago, that one of the things that men wish that women knew is that performance anxiety is constant. It's constantly there. But I think honestly I think men need to understand that for women it's the same thing. A
For
performance
men,
anxiety
yes,
of
I agree. For women, though, it's a lot easier to fake it. A woman can fake
oh,
an
for
orgasm.
sure.
A man can't
100%.
fake if his penis gets soft. I
I think what I'm getting at though is that for women, the performance anxiety for men of am I doing it well? But for women, we understand that men are visual creatures, and so it's you know is my vagina too wide? Is there, do I have enough? Do I have too many skin folds? Is there,
Yeah.
extra fat on my back that's jiggling when he thrusts? Like all of these different things. Like these are the things that get in. We're in our head too.
Well,
So when there's
absolutely.
that trust has to be there.
That trust has to be there. And what I've also heard from many, many men over the years, both men I've dated, men who've been clients, it's confidence. It's
Mm-hmm.
confidence. It's how we show up. I live in Southern California. I live among women who have, you know, you know, breast augmentation, they have their Botox, they have their fillers. Not everybody, but a lot of women in Southern California have done things to themselves, not judging. I happen to, what you see is what you get. I'll be
Yeah.
47 in a couple months. I've had 2 kids. My body is my body, and I own my body because I've learned over the years to love my body. And I'm confident in my body. Although, if you looked at my naked body compared to other naked bodies, it's not the same.
Right.
Men appreciate confidence. They don't want a woman who lays there, who fakes it, who doesn't
Yeah.
seem to be wanting to be there. They rather be getting a root canal. So it's how we show up, and how we show up is going to make a difference in how comfortable we are in our bodies, whether our body is a size A breast or a size D breast, whether our body has skin folds or, doesn't. And that's very hard to do, to be vulnerable in our bodies, both even by ourselves, let alone with a partner.
Sure.
It's hard.
It absolutely is. What are some of the other common challenges that you find that couples face?
Gosh, I mean, within a sexual relationship
Yeah.
specifically,
Yeah, just with the sex life.
just accepting how sex changes, how we change, our
Mhm.
desires change. We don't necessarily question, like, oh, when we first met, you really enjoyed hiking. We were part of a hiking group and now we don't hike anymore. But they're going to notice and question how our sex desires change. And I believe if two people or more, depending on who's in the relationship, love each other, are honest with each other, are committed to each other, want to learn and grow together, then all of these things can be talked about. And your sex life in your 40s and your 50s, heck, I'll even go as far as to say in your 60s, can be even better and more enjoyable than it ever was in your 20s. So it's like we do in life, adjusting to a new normal.
Yeah.
And accepting that because our bodies are changing, sex is not going to be the same. Sex may take longer. Sex may need to include lube or medication or this or that. And none of that is bad. None of that is bad at all. But we've got to be honest about it and be there for it. The man who has performance anxiety, has erectile dysfunction, that is not 100% on him to have to solve and figure out. Your
Yeah,
partner needs to be aware of it. Work on it together. If
I
she
agree.
is drier now as she's going through, perimenopause, don't try and fake that you put some lube on before you started, kissing on your partner.
Yeah,
Let them one who puts the lube on you. There's no
yeah,
shame in that. Like, we need to be okay with our bodies changing because that's the
yeah.
reality of life.
It is. It absolutely is. I absolutely agree. What are some ideas that you would give to couples who, they've been together 10, 15 years and they're
Yeah.
wanting to spice up, but again, monogamous and heterosexual?
I would say back to the word novelty, anything new would make a huge difference. I am all about small change makes a big difference. If you are used to having sex at night, starting in the missionary position, you know, then don't have sex at night or still have sex at night. Don't start in the missionary position. If you
Yeah.
are used to never listening to music during sex, put music on. If you are used to the room being pitch black because one person isn't comfortable with any light shining in, light a candle. Put the light on in the bathroom and close the door, but just enough for a little glimpse of light to come in. Do one little itty bitty thing differently. And it is mind boggling how much of a ripple effect that has. And if both partners choose something that is different, there's two things that are going to make the experience different. It's not the couple who is like, well, I guess the only way we can spice up our sex life, at 50 years old is to bring a third into the mix, is to go to the sex shop and buy this very overwhelming, you know, toy that I wouldn't even know what hole that goes in. No, can you do those things? Of course, if you want to do those things. It doesn't need to get to that extent. It can be as small as let's take a shower together before sex. Let's
Yeah.
not have sex on the bed. Let's have sex on the floor next to the bed. What can you do differently to still incorporate sex into your love life, into your marriage, into your relationship, and not do the same thing over and over and over again? Because that's what
Yeah,
usually ends up happening.
I agree. As we wrap up here, one of the things that you are very passionate about is happiness in marriage. And that is one of the things that I find is common is that one person in the couple will come and say, I'm not happy. What's your take on happiness in marriage?
So again, I start with the definition. What does unhappy mean? How long have you been unhappy? Were you ever happy? Hopefully they say yes. What did happiness look like? And then once we kind of have all of those pieces of the puzzle, now let's build what we're going to build. Is happiness possible? Hopefully it is. So what do we need to do to get there? And it's again, very small changes every day. I loved when we had date nights. Okay. Well, then how are we going to make a date night happen? Oh my God, that's impossible. What do you mean? How are we going to make a date night happen? We're barely paying our bills. We can't afford a babysitter. We have 3 kids under the age of whatever. I've heard it all. Again,
Yeah.
if it's important enough to you, you're going to make it happen. And by the way, date night doesn't have to be dropping $200 on the
No.
local steakhouse on a Saturday night. It can be tonight when your kids have gone to bed and you and your partner are spending 30 minutes to connect.
Yeah,
That
I
can be a
agree.
date night.
A walk around the block together.
Anything.
Yeah, anything. I mean, you can get real creative with it if you really want to.
And to be honest, sometimes those dates that happen at home that cost $0 are going to be so much more connective and enjoyable than getting dressed up, having the babysitter come over, dropping a few $100, whether you can afford it or not, expecting sex. Because why would we not? We got dressed up. We got the babysitter. That means we're having sex tonight. Don't put all, and again, I'm not just saying going out on a Saturday night and getting a babysitter, but it doesn't have to be to that extreme. It's we need to reconnect. We have been so busy with all of these things that are going on in our lives, kids or not. We need to find our way back to each other. We need to
Yeah.
prioritize the relationship, our happiness. And it's not just the happiness of the relationship, it's each individual person's happiness. They used to go to yoga 3 times a week. They used to go out with friends once a month. They used to whatever. Why did that stop?
Yeah,
There's a reason it stopped. And how do we bring that back in? Because that whole oxygen example on the airplane, we are going to be a better version of ourselves to our partners if we are getting our own needs met. And how come all of that stopped? We've got to bring it back into the mix.
for sure. And have sex before you go on the date. Like that way it's off the table. You don't have to worry about it. And like now you can just enjoy each other. Like, why not?
Or what I say is have sex before and after if you want to. Have a little
Love
bit of
it. Yeah.
have a little bit of a tease before. And even if you're on the date, have fun. We forget to have fun. If you're
Yes.
getting up during the date to go use the restroom, to go check your lipstick, whatever you're doing, send your partner a text who you're going right back to see them in 30 seconds. Send him a text. Heck, send him a selfie in the bathroom. Do something that's going to spice up the date to tease a little, to even if you're going home to pass out and go to bed, great. Say, I
Yeah.
can't wait to get home and snuggle under the sheets with you. I'm having such a
Yeah.
fun time on a date. Who does that? No one does that.
Yeah.
They don't text their partner while they're on the date with their partner. They go to the bathroom and they come back to their partner who's sitting at the table. So
Yeah.
again, little itty bitty gestures that will surprise the person, will make them feel loved, will make them feel appreciated. It'll make us feel good. Why are we not doing those small things all throughout the day?
Yeah. Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more. I love it. Okay. So for our listeners,
Yes.
are you online? Are you able to practice outside of Southern California? Give me your thoughts and
Yeah.
yeah, all of your handles and the ways that people can connect with you, all the things.
Love it. Love it. Love it. So I am in California. I am licensed in California. I'm also licensed in Colorado. If a person is listening and would like to reach out and don't live in either of those states, I'd still say reach out. The best way to get a hold of me is my website. It's my name. So KeriGreenLMFT.com. Yes, I have social media. Yes, I would love to speak to someone, even if I always say, even if I'm not going to be the best therapist for you, or I may not be able to be your therapist if you want to go through insurance and you're in a different state than where I'm licensed, I would still love to hear what you have to say and provide you with resources, even if it's a book, a podcast, something to work on your sexual journey. I would hope that every person, regardless of age, regardless of their past, is on this journey for the rest of their lives. Because why would we not be? It's our
For sure.
it's our right to enjoy our bodies, enjoy sex if we want to. And I would love for anyone to reach out who has the question. I'd be happy to put them in the right place, even if it's not me.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Quick question. If they don't go through insurance, do you have to be licensed in their state?
As a therapist, we need to be licensed in the state that the person lives in.
Okay.
There are some loopholes around that, calling it
Okay.
coaching rather than therapy, calling it a consultation rather than a
Yep.
clinical. There's lots of ways around it.
Gotcha.
So that's why I would never want someone in New Jersey to not feel like they could reach out to me. I also could put them in touch with a great sex therapist in New Jersey. So there are some legal and ethical things that we've got to work with, but all in all, I want someone to have the sex life that they want to have. I want them to work through the trauma they maybe have never worked through, whatever the case is. So if I'm the first stop to put them on that path, I'm happy to be that person.
Love it. Keri, thank you so much for being here today. It has been an absolute pleasure. And yeah, I hope that I just want people, people are shocked when I tell them, okay, your homework this week is to have sex at least 3 times. And they're like, wait, what? And I'm like, well, you haven't had it in 6 months and you're quite disconnected. So let's see how this works. So I just want people to have the best sex lives that they possibly can. So
Yeah, I agree.
hopefully they'll reach out.
Absolutely.
Hopefully
Yeah,
they'll reach
thank you
out.
for
So,
having me.
yeah, thanks
Absolutely.
for being on. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
We've all seen it. The messy social media messages, the public tea spilling, and the absolute embarrassment of finding out that your life is a lie through a Facebook post or an Instagram message that your spouse thought was hidden. What if it didn't have to be like that, though? What if you could find out before their affair got too deep? Statistics show that over 20% of marriages deal with infidelity, and most affairs last for years because they thrive in the dark. It's time to turn the lights on. Verified.com is the world's first searchable relationship registry. It's not just an app, it's a digital boundary for your marriage. When you register your spouse on Verified, you are claiming your relationship on a global scale, whether you're talking, you're dating, or you're married. If another man or woman is being told your spouse is single or divorced and they search for your spouse on the registry, they find you instead. Now, here's the game changer. Verified allows you to speak one-on-one and directly with that other person. No gaslighting from your spouse. No he said, she said. No, oh my God, you went through my phone. How could you betray my trust like that? And zero social media drama. Just the truth, person to person, before things go too far. Don't wait for that gut feeling to become a nightmare. Because even if you think your spouse would never, there's an even better chance that you just never know. Register your spouse today using the link in the show notes and lock in your legacy to protect your peace. This podcast is for educational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional counseling or therapy. Every couple story is unique, so take what's helpful and leave the rest. By listening to this podcast, you acknowledge that neither I, Cameron Thompson Alaricki, Married and Connected, or Recognizing Potential Coaching are responsible for any outcomes related to what you apply from this show, especially if you are not a client of mine.